So, welcome everyone. I'm Carol Fletcher and I'm the team lead of Messy Church Canada and the Planning Committee. Throughout the day, you'll meet the other people of the Planning Committee as we take turns introducing our speakers, and a word of thanks to each of our members of our planning team and to each and every one of our speakers. We are delighted that you're here. We could not have this conference without you. So thank you so much for being with us today. We begin today, as we do each day, thinking about our relationship to the world, our relationship to God, and our relationship to one another. And we begin first with the acknowledgement of the land that is shared with us by Daniel Blakey, who is a Messy Church dad and the local member of parliament for us here.
Hi everybody, I'm Daniel Blakey, the member of parliament for Elmwood-Transcona and a member of Messy Church. Salut tout le monde, je suis Daniel Blakey, le député pour Elmwood-Transcona et un membre de la cathédrale Pêle-Mêle. I'm coming to you today from Ottawa on Parliament Hill, which is on the traditional unceded territories of the Anishinaabe and the Algonquin peoples. And my riding of Elmwood-Transcona in Winnipeg is located on the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dene, and Dakota peoples, as well as the homeland of the Métis Nation. I know people are participating in the Messy Connections Conference from across the country, and there are many territories from which everyone is participating. So I'd invite you to do your own land acknowledgement in the chat so people can see all the many territories across the country from which people are participating. And I want to just take this opportunity to wish you a very good Messy Connections conference and wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thank you, Daniel. So please do either use the chat or change your name to include any land acknowledgements that you might like to add today. We begin first with a word of blessing and prayer. Let us pray. Holy God, as we gather today, may your spirit fill our lives that we may be encouraged to share your love and grace. Be with us in Jesus' name. Amen. Speaking of people on the planning team, it is Joyce who is going to introduce our speaker and who knew of our speaker from before. So what a great gift it is. Thank you, Joyce.
Welcome, everyone. I am Joyce Reeves, a member of Stonewall Anglican Parish, and we acknowledge that we are on Treaty 1 land. I am on the Stonewall Messy Church team and part of the Messy Church Canadian Conference planning team. Today, it gives great pleasure to introduce and welcome Dave Zachary. Dave is an Aboriginal artist from Manitoba, and Dave has over 20 years of carving experience and has sold to private collections around the world. Please get your Ivory soap bar ready, and we will hand you over to Dave. Welcome, Dave.
Thanks, guys. It's good to be here. So I'm gonna try to connect both my cameras here. Oh, it says it's disabled participant screen sharing. Is there a way to, actually, I think I just switch it back and forth then. So I'm gonna switch to the other camera here. So here's our bar of soap we're gonna be starting with. The first step I always like to do is just to scrape off the writing on the one side. And I use the back of like a steak knife to do it, or the back of a butter knife works too. And you just go lightly and just scrape off a layer until the few layers until the writing comes off and it's all just clean. I'll switch to my other camera and show you it's a little better than this one that I'm using here. So. the writing's all cleaned off and it's just smooth clean now. So after we do that, I use either the point of this is like a little for like doing nails or whatever, kind of like a nail file tool or whatever. I used to use the point of that. You can use the point of a pencil or even the point of your steak knife if you want. And then we start scratching in a design. So I'll show you how to do that. I'm gonna switch to the other camera again here. So first thing, start at the top in the middle and make a square about the size of a sugar cube, touching the top. This camera is really hard to see. I'm going to switch it to the other one for a second here. There we go. Had to hit the right shot in there or something. There you go. Can you see the little square at the top there? About the size of a sugar cube. And centered. Then I'm going to make another little rectangle underneath that. That's about it's about the size if you took a sugar cube and cut it in half and stacked it side by side, made a rectangle. So I'm going to do it right now here. Everyone able to see that? And just scratch it in lightly for now, because if you make a mistake, you'll have to scratch it off and you don't want to go too thin. It's really hard to see. Try to use this light here, hang on. There we go. You guys see that now? Okay.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, so after that, we're gonna make another rectangle underneath that one. That's about double the thickness of the one we just made, but it's gonna touch all the way to both sides. So I'll just do one here.
Yeah.
Okay. Then underneath that one, we're gonna make one that's about as wide as the second one we made, but about double the thickness.
Okay. Goes all the way to the edge of the
No,
soap.
it goes about as wide as the second one we made,
Oh, okay.
but about double the thickness, like the one that went all the way to the end, like the third one.
Oh, okay. Oops.
It's kind of gonna be the waist of the Inukshuk.
Yeah.
And don't worry, any mistakes can be easily scratched off and stuff like that right now. So now we're gonna make another one, just like the third one we made, where it's gonna go all the way to the end again.
Mhm.
And about the same size as the third one.
Same thickness as the third one?
Yeah,
Right.
basically the exact same thing. There we go. Is the third one.
Okay, all the way. Mhm.
Now we're gonna make the legs. It's gonna be, so you're gonna basically right to the end on both sides. You're gonna make like a kind of a thick block with a notch, with like a spot space in the middle. So kind of just two lines right to the bottom. And then we're gonna empty out this middle part between the legs right there. once we start carving.
Left over. Could have made them all bigger. There. Okay.
Okay, so now I'm gonna switch to the other camera again. So we're basically gonna just cut out all the stuff around the drawing that we made. So it's best to use a steak knife for this. And when you're doing it, just cut off little bits at a time, like about a 1/4 inch or something like that. Like don't go too deep, because if you try pushing too deep, it'll bust a big chunk off and it'll ruin the thing. You'll have to start over again. So just go like a little bit like that at a time, and not too much, and just carve it right down to your lines that you made. So I'm gonna cut downwards towards on the side of the head like that, and cut this way and start notching out all around the drawing that you made. So I'll just cut out a little bit here, and then I'm gonna switch to the other camera and show you what I'm talking about. And just take off little by little, especially if your soap's not brand, like this is really fresh, brand new soap, so it's cutting really good. And so you're basically, what you're gonna do is you're gonna try to cut out the whole silhouette of the drawing you made and make it look like a cookie cutter stamped it out. So a nice straight cut, like you don't want it to be leaning down one way or whatever. It's kind of like you want a 90-degree cut all the way around your whole sculpture you're making. So I'm just gonna do a little bit more here, and I'll show you what I'll just switch to the other camera and show you what I mean. Okay. Get an angle on here to show it. It's so hard to get a good angle with the light on this camera. Okay, so you see I'm just cutting it right to the line of my drawing. Now, hang on a second. I'm gonna grab a marker pen or something so I can.
Dave, is this the shape we're going for?
Yeah, that's exactly the shape we're going for there. Actually, if you can just show that to everybody.
Okay, so
they know not to cut.
Graeme, can you put me up, please? Graeme, can you spotlight me for a moment there?
Yeah, that's exactly the shape. So you got to make sure that you cut in between the arms, like don't cut the arm off, or the in between the legs. Make sure you don't cut a leg or an arm off, or it's like the spot in between the arms and legs. Like if you cut the wrong spot out, it'll cut off an arm or whatever kind of thing.
Okay, so when I think of that, I think that this is the bar of Ivory soap on the outside.
Yeah, exactly. So if you could just scribble on the black on the spots that they're going to cut off there. And like I said, you want to make it nice and kind of square at first, like as if a cookie cutter stamped it out right to your lines. Yeah, just like that.
So there we have it.
Is it better to do one side and then the other, or just?
Yeah, I would just start with one side, and then because it depends on how thick it ends up carving down to, because as you carve along, it might start getting really thin. You might only want to make it just one-sided, but if it's nice and thick still, you can do both sides. Yeah, that's exactly. So I'm going to keep trimming out some more of it here. And like I said, just go slowly, because if you try to trim off too much at once, it likes to break off a big chunk. Just like carving soapstone, you kind of, and wood and stuff like that, you got to be patient, or you can.
Okay, so I've got the shape. Has everybody got an idea now?
Yeah.
See.
Okay, so you can take me off then. Thanks, Graeme. You need to know that I've made a mess of mine as I started, but I'm going to
It's okay, because like I said, you can scratch it off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm pretty happy with how it's going to end up. So it's Carol speaking again. I've got my camera off while I'm carving, but I was thinking that, you know, we have seen Inukshuk as a symbol for us,
Yeah.
as a symbol that people have been here before.
Yeah.
Dave, what's your experience of Inukshuk?
Well, there's actually a whole bunch of different like reasons they use them kind of in different areas and stuff like that. Like certain spots, they would put them on the top of a valley on all, like they'd make them all the way along the tops of both sides of a valley. And they would herd the reindeer through the valley to like kind of trap them or whatever. The same way they would do with the bison when they run them off the cliff. But they would run, so when caribou would start running into the valley, their first idea would be to run up the hill and get out of there, right? But they look up on the hill and they'd see what looks like a person standing up there, but it's just a rock, like a Inukshuk. So instead of running up the hill and getting away, they'll run straight down the valley, and there's guys waiting there with bow and arrows or whatever to take them out, kind of thing. So they were used for like herding animals like that. They were used for like almost like signs, like highway signs, like to tell you like it's safe to go to a certain spot or it's not safe and stuff like that. And then also, like you said, just to tell people that someone's been here before, like that people will climb to like the top of a huge mountain and they'll put one up there just to make sure, like, you know, it didn't just pile up itself, you know, like it's not a natural formation. So people, it's kind of a way of saying that, yeah, people have been here, stuff. So they have quite a few different meanings. And like the Inuits were the ones who would make like the human looking ones, and the natives would make like more or less just a rock pile, like just a stack of rocks, just in like 5 or 6 rocks stacked up. So, you know, it was made by a human, but it didn't necessarily have to be shaped as a human or whatever.
Yeah, I think my reflections on that are that the Inukshuk that says that, you know, we've been here before is also a way of saying safe passage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So into the chat, Shannon suggested that you also consider saving your soap shavings in order to put them into a soap bottle. The other suggestion that we had was that you save your soap shavings and put them into, like if you have an old nylon sock, something like that, as a way of saving the soap from waste.
Yeah, you can, even if it's really like fresh, you can just take it and ball it up really tight like this, and then wet it and like use it like a bar of soap, and it goes, basically it forms back into a bar of soap, and you just use it like a regular bar after that too. There's also like, you can clump it up, and like kids really like to do it, but you stick it in a microwave for like 10 seconds or something, and it makes it go all, like turns into like a little, like puffs up like a monster or something. They call it like a soap monster or something like that. I've seen it on YouTube, but my niece and nephew, when we made soap sculptures, they were doing it after. Pretty cool. So
It
yeah,
is very cool.
Once we have our basic shape cut out, is everybody at this point yet, or?
Not yet.
Oh, okay, I'll wait for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Not that I am a flawless carver, but I'm still on my original bar of soap. For a moment, I thought I was going to have to do a second bar, but so far so good. Joyce has done this before. How's it going the second time around, Joyce?
I'm just laughing actually because mine's very unique.
Yeah, that's what's cool. When I do the workshop at schools with the soapstone, we make little bears about like little ones about that big kind of thing, and all the kids, I get them to draw it themselves or whatever, and everyone turns out really cool, really unique, and you can tell each person's like they made their own kind of thing. It's pretty cool.
Mhm. So you started carving when you were a child because your dad was a carver.
Yeah.
And how do you discern? I mean, we're doing soapstone carving. We're making an Inukshuk because that's something that has meaning for us
Yeah.
as something that we can tell the story of. But how do you decide what you're going to carve?
It depends. Like if I buy raw soapstone, which is it's just like a chunk of rock that you'd see outside anywhere, kind of like just all weird shapes and stuff like that. A lot of times you look at the rock and you can kind of just see a shape of something in it already. And sometimes you'll get really lucky, like it's just naturally shaped like something, and you don't barely have to even remove any of the soapstone to make it into what carving it wants to be, kind of thing. It seems like it wants to be. So it's like sometimes we say like the rock decides what it wants to get carved into, and but other times some artists like to only buy soapstone that's cut into blocks already, and then they're able to just draw what they want to make and really easily, like, because it's hard to draw in rough like natural soapstone. So even some people will just cut the natural like side off just to draw on it or something, or file it off smooth so they can draw their picture on the side without being rough or whatever. But yeah, it's a lot of times when you're working with raw soapstone, it basically decides what it wants to be itself. You just look at it and it's already shaped like something naturally, and saves you a lot of work and stuff. It's pretty cool when that happens like that.
And has that happened to you?
Yeah, actually quite a few times. Like I made one of my bigger carvings, I made a blue whale. It's on my website, and it basically was like I looked at it and it was like the exact shape of a whale. I barely had to remove anything. It was one of the fastest like big carvings I ever made.
Wow.
It was all just right there. It had like a little bump at the top where the dorsal fin would be. It had 2 bumps on the side where the side fins went, and it was just very little work it took to make it. And it was a really big carving, so it was pretty cool.
That's very cool. So let's just check in for those of us who are carving along with Dave. We have a few people who are ready. Is there anyone who needs a little bit more time, or we can go to the next stage?
I think we can go to the next stage.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Val Beasley is asking, where can we get soapstone for carving, Dave? Where do you buy soapstone?
Well, like if you can buy it at art stores and stuff like that, and like I sell it to like a lot of the artists in Winnipeg, because I buy it in bulk and sell it to them kind of cheaper than the art stores sell it to or whatever. And you can get it at art stores and stuff. The thing about art stores that's kind of not good about buying it there is a lot of them aren't carvers. Like they're just kind of buying it and selling it for profit or whatever. So they don't know nothing about the stone, and they they like sell crappy that's not like, because a lot of soapstone will have impurities and veins in it and stuff like that. And if you don't carve it yourself, you wouldn't know the good stuff, So like sometimes you'll be carving a carving and like a bear, and one of his arms will just fall off right like mid through the carving, because like they sourced it from somewhere where it was blasted nearby or something, and all the rocks have like fissures in them and stuff like that. So if you get it from an art store, I would recommend buying stuff that's already cut into blocks, because they if it's cut into blocks, they check it to make sure it's good, but they sell it for a lot more expensive. But if you're buying like rough stuff, I would try to find a local artist that already carves in your town or whatever, or someone who knows what they're doing with it before, like, to buy off if you're buying it rough, because like the artist emporium here in Winnipeg, like they sell rough stuff, and it's off. I just hear people complaining about it all the time. I've had problems with it and stuff like that. But my normal soapstone that I buy mostly, it comes from Quebec. And it's like a big quarry they have out there, and they frequently test it to make sure it has no asbestos or nothing like that in it that's like bad to breathe in and stuff. So that's where I usually source most of my soapstone from, because I know it's pretty clean and pure, and it's really good soft soapstone and that. So
Perfect, thank you. All right, we're ready for the next piece.
okay, so the next step is we're gonna take one of these tools, or you can use the tip of your steak knife. Doesn't matter, but we're gonna go over these lines, the lines going horizontal, and just scratch them in a little deeper. Get an angle, you can see how deep I just carved them in there. There we go. So I just carved them in a little deeper with this tool here. So after that step, we're gonna take our steak knife or butter knife, doesn't matter. Want to carve the head back like this. So what we're trying to do is make the head seem like it's thinner this way, like thinner this way than the rest of the sculpture. So carve it to about as thick from both sides, the top, front and back, like a sugar cube, basically. So carving it smaller than the rest of the. And then next step, we're gonna carve the next bump down a little thinner. It's gonna be a tiny bit thicker than the head, but thinner than the arms. So we're gonna go like this and trim a bit off. What this is gonna do from doing this to all the pieces are gonna give it depth, so it makes it look like they're not all the same thickness and give it more of a 3D effect. So there we go. And then after you do the shoulders and the head thinner like that, you're gonna do the stomach, leave the arms, but do the stomach thinner. So like this. And after the stomach, you're gonna do the legs a little thinner, but start at the tip of like where the feet would be and kind of go back on like a little bit of an angle. So the bottom of the feet stay as wide as possible, but you want to go like trim off a little bit towards the like that. So it's kind of on an angle. So you keep the bottom of the feet because you want it to stand good. So you want the bottom of the feet as wide as possible, but then you want to taper it in a little bit towards where the waist piece goes. And if you're using a steak knife, you can use the back of it. It's really good to carve too, and it makes a nice clean without the teeth mark. See, there's it from the side view. See the head's the thinnest, and then the shoulders are a little thinner, arms are the full thickness, stomach goes in, the waist sticks out, and then the legs go in. So now on the sides of the legs, we're gonna cut in a little notch like this, just a little notch to the waist and a little line in like that. So you can make it. And we're gonna do that same thing on the other side. So you, right where your waist line is like that, you can make a little cut in, little tiny bit, go really easy, because if you push too hard, it'll break the whole leg off. And then in on an angle again to make it look like that. So you're basically keeping the bottom of the feet as square and wide as possible, but tapering it in to make it so that the waist sticks out on each end a little bit. And now you want to use the back of your knife and go in the legs and make it nice and clean right to your lines. Is everyone still good, or should I pause for a second? Or
Well, I think I'm pretty good. I think I was a little bit overly zealous in giving my legs a little bit of a smaller size than I intended, but it's still standing. And I think that's a very good thing.
yeah. Okay, so next we're gonna I'm gonna make my shoulders a tiny bit smaller. So on mine, it's hard to see, but I cut off all the lines basically with that I made with this thing. So I'm just gonna go in and carve them in again here a little bit to give it the idea that it's actually stacked up rocks from each other. So I'm just recarving those lines in that kind of got carved off when I made certain spots thinner. Can do them at the side too, even of the blocks.
I see this as a very viable activity for a messy church or a messy vintage. You know, it's a good hands-on thing to be able to do.
Carving of all kind, like especially with little kids and stuff, they love it. They like all the bad kids and stuff. They don't actually be bad while they're carving. They all pay attention and they all get into it and they're all quiet. All the teachers will come and tell me they've never seen the kid be so like good and stuff like that, you know. So,
we did actually do it in one of the messy churches, and it went over really, really well. And actually the soap carving is in one of the books, you know, for the activities, a messy church book. And it went over really, really well with all ages.
Yeah, definitely. Kids just love it everywhere I go. I've done a whole bunch of schools and probably like 3,000 kids altogether that I've taught in the last few years at schools. And there's maybe been less than 5 that didn't like it.
Well,
and it seemed like those 5 are already having a bad day for some reason or other, you know. So
well,
now I'm gonna go work on the middle bump here. I'm gonna carve it in a little bit just to. What I do now is, if you look at it, it all looks pretty square. So I just go over like for instance, I'll trim like the corner off this top corner off one of his arms like this, and make it so it's not like just a square rock. I mean, like yeah, so it's kind of just like, see what I did? I just made it like rough, kind of like odd shaped. So I'll just go around and do that to a whole bunch of the different blocks and stuff. So you basically don't want them to look like a bunch of blocks, perfectly square blocks stacked up. You want to make them all look like random rocks kind of thing. So you can just trim off corners and just do stuff to them to make them like each one of them look random, and try to like make it so they're not just like square, and try kind of do a different thing on each one to make it different, you know, don't do the same thing on both sides or something. Like you see what I just did to the shoulders there? I trimmed off a little bit on each side to make it not square kind of. And now this arm's still, or this hand's still square. So I trimmed off that side on that one. So I'll do the bottom of this side so it doesn't look the same. So you see, it's just making it all. Now on the inside block here, I'm going to cut it in a little bit. Cut it in on an angle, make it look like it's a separate block. So this side, I'm going to trim up a bit and make it. So yeah, so now it's not looking all square and choppy, you know, like blocky no more. It's kind of each one's its own random. You can sit there and play with it and just kind of make any spots look not so rounded or whatever. Or I mean, not so square, I mean.
David, you're certainly a gifted carver.
Yeah,
I just had a note from Jeff saying that his is looking for a shoulder and hip replacement. So, you know, when I look at what you've done and what I've done, I think, well, that's something. But I'm certainly enjoying the task of this. It's very relaxing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, same with that. So like with soapstone, people, even when people don't even know what to make out of it, and they just sit there and play with it and kind of file it and stuff, they still have fun. It's like very relaxing, just like this. Actually, gonna make his head have a little. So how I make them look kind of pointed in, like I cut in a little bit right here, like, and then just cut in on an angle like that. That makes it look like it's hard to see there. See, I made a little notch under his head there. It makes it look like it's a separate rock that just kind of got stacked on top. Cut the corner off the top there. Trying to get a good angle where you can see all the detail and stuff. So I'll make his legs a little rounder and stuff here.
Whoa, let's see. Here is my bar of soup.
Oh, thank you.
Little man.
That's a good angle right there.
Very fun.
Hmm. So I too have an Inukshuk
Yeah, that's looking good.
of sorts.
Yeah,
Joyce, I can see that you are carving.
yeah, it's looking good. That's right.
I'm going to put my view to different so that I can see. Is anyone else ready to demonstrate their carving experience?
Diane's looks really good.
Diane, I haven't seen yours yet. Try again. Oh, very good. Yes, absolutely.
And Gail,
Yep. Way to go, Gail. Aileen, did you carve?
I did. However, I didn't have ivory. I had dove, which is oval, which didn't really lend itself to an Inukshuk. So mine decided it would be a bird. Oops, let me see if I can get it into.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So it's a kind of a raven, kind of a bit pot-bellied and whatever. But anyway, I just love the sensation of carving. It's a I don't know. It's just such a delicious feeling carving away at the soap.
Mhm.